Welcome to Technically Speaking, conversations for design managers delivering real stories and ready-to-use tactics to help you build confidence and credibility. I sit down with top voices in design, tech, and business to open the black box of leadership. I'm your host, Harrison Wheeler. With 20 years in design and a decade leading teams from scrappy startups to global giants, it's time to get technical. Hey everybody, my name is Harrison Wheeler. And welcome to the Technically Speaking podcast. My next guest is Jermaine Murray, founder of Toronto-based consulting firm Jupiter HR, where he provides interview prep and career consulting services for clients. He's also known as The Jobfather, which we'll dig into a little bit later. And he's on a mission to help 500 Black people get new jobs in tech. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Harrison. Happy to be here.
Yeah, look, and I would say I can update that last comment because I think you have about 99 more to go.
96, actually.
Oh,
so
96. Okay.
Yeah. We are at 404 success stories.
Yeah.
I'm super hyped about it. 94 to go. It's like keeping me up, and like it's weird because it's like, so you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and like for like the last 5 years I've made this whole entire thing like my whole entire being. It's like a personality trait at some point. Like, you ever see that meme where that guy's in the back of the party and he's like, oh, they don't even know blah blah blah. To me, it's like, oh, I'm just waiting for somebody to ask you, like, yo, how do Black people get in tech? And like, I'd be like, yo, let me help you. Let me see if I can add you to the account. So like, I'm hyped about it.
Yeah. I'm super curious. Like, I'd imagine that just creates a lot of focus for you in terms of where you put your energy, right?
Yeah, it does. I think especially because like I've been trying for the last couple of years to just be a little bit more healthier and just conscious of my health. And specifically like in 2021, I wanted to, like, in 1 year help 100 Black people get jobs in tech alone. And I did 126, which was bananas.
Wow.
But like, yo, it burnt me out. Like, it wasn't like the healthiest thing, right?
Yeah.
So I've had to do a lot in terms of like pacing myself and making sure that I give myself rest days. My partner has been like on my butt to like do that. So like, I used to work 7 days a week, and then she was on me. So now like Sundays I don't work, I take Sundays off. I put my phone on a focus, and I grab my PlayStation controller, and I just chill out and go to the gym or something.
Yeah. What are you playing on the PlayStation these days?
Right now I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm loving it. I just finished up Baldur's Gate 3, but right now playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's an amazing game. I play the original one back in like the olden days, where when we were doing off of CDs and things.
I know.
Now everything's digital.
I know, man. So I take it you're big into RPG games.
Oh yeah, that's my genre right there.
Yeah. It's funny when you talk about the old school. I saw this post. Everyone's obsessing over Nvidia now, right? Because their stock is on a crazy run. And, I wanted to say, like, people today know Nvidia for their crazy performance, but I remember Nvidia for the graphics cards, so I could play the games, and so that DirectX whatever could actually work. So it's, I'm sure you resonate with some of that back in the early computer gaming days.
Yeah. I built a computer. It was for video editing, right? But like, I realized pretty quickly that a strong video editing computer can double as a gaming rig. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, the Nvidia was one of my graphic cards. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Next question I have for you is, what is something that you're currently obsessed with?
Something that I'm currently obsessed with is working out. I've always been like a big fan of like exercise and like strength training. And I'm originally from Canada, but when the pandemic hit, they shut down all the gyms, and it was just wild because I think I ended up gaining like 80 pounds over the course of the pandemic. Like, And, you know, it doesn't really hit you because you start working from home, so you're just like naturally rocking sweats. But when I went to go put on those jeans for the first time, you know, start cutting off circulation, I was like, oh, we got to make a little bit of a change. So
Yeah.
as part of like my whole thing on like focusing on health and, you know, living a better, healthier lifestyle, I've been working out, and I have this app, and it said that I hit my 67th workout of the year so far. And
Wow.
I'm like just addicted to the feeling of like working out. Like
Yeah.
I work out now. I work out more now that I play video games, which is like crazy to me because like
Yeah.
it used to be the reverse my whole entire life.
Yeah. But what kind of workouts? Are you like a cardio? Do you like to run? Are you like a gym rat? Like combo hit? What is it?
I'm a mix of primarily strength training and
Yeah.
then cardio. So I like on average I spend like maybe like 90 minutes to 2 hours doing strength training, and then I finish it
Yeah.
off with like 30 minutes of cardio.
Yeah.
My goal is to like, you know, lose weight through building muscle, but like there's just, I don't know, man, like there's something about being able to like just keep pushing and pushing. I remember when I first walked into the gym, and I got intimidated by some of the larger weights.
Mm.
And now after like working myself up, those larger weights are now like my regular weights, right? And like
Yeah.
I'm going a bit beyond that. So it's like it's a really good feeling. I can't lie. Like, you know, I'll be doing some you know, muscular poses in the mirror and whatnot. You know,
Yeah.
looking for an excuse to wear muscle shirts and
Okay.
sleeveless shirts.
I see. Yeah. Like it's gonna be that, and then the next time you're gonna be wearing a Speedo, you
Because
know.
if my girl didn't tell me it was weird, I would be doing it all the time. I like doing the Hulk Hogan shirt rip, you know, when you're feeling like
Oh
just
yeah.
really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I did that one time, and she looked at me and she was like, "What is wrong with
You're just living your childhood dreams, right? You
Exactly,
know?
man, exactly.
Yeah. I look, I'm a big proponent of the whole workout thing. It's definitely something that I make sure I carve out in the morning. I wake up pretty ridiculously early to do it, but I know, and you can probably resonate this, like when things get super hectic, at least I know that I've done at least one thing in the day completely for myself, right? So, love that. The next question I have for you is, what is the most unusual job you've ever done?
The most unusual job I've ever done, I would say. So I want you like when you say unusual, do you mean like the job that had the most unusual things, or just the weirdest job that you just never expected?
Hey, it's your decision. Up to you.
I would say I would say I used to sell gym memberships
Okay.
way like 10 years ago. And it actually helped me a lot in terms of like getting like the key skills I needed for like
Yeah.
a successful career in recruitment.
Yeah.
But like working at the gym is the weirdest thing because you get people from all walks of life, right?
Yeah.
You get people that drive Lambos, you get people that like are like bodybuilders that are on like
Yeah.
on steroids. And then like just like you have like random things that happen to you. I had somebody pass away on our gym floor
Oh
once.
my gosh.
Yeah, it was like traumatic, and
Wow.
yeah. It was traumatic, but like the when the cops came, they were like, "Hey, we need." It was a weekend too, so like there's no managers there. It was just
Yeah.
like I was the oldest person on staff, and I'm just like I'm like 22 at the point. I'm like, what? I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we need to review your footage of your gym to make sure that it wasn't foul play."
But
And
yeah.
I'm like, you have a whole gym floor that's like, yo, we saw what happened.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need it. And like the camera was in my manager's office. So when I called my manager, she's like, bro, I'm all the way in like the cottage right now. Like I can't come back. And I'm like, they said they need it. And she's like, what are you gonna do? Break down my door? And I looked at the cops and I was like, yo, are you gonna be mad if I break down the door? And they're like, nah, that's, you know what, do that. And then she's like, dude, what that? And like, I gotta do what the cops say I gotta do. So I had an opportunity to break her door down. I was a little mad at her still, so I took it out on the door, and like, hey, yo, it was like a heavy duty door. I had to like go get a wrench from like our maintenance staff, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
if you remember Street Fighter 2, where like, you know, they had the car on the dock and you
Oh
had to like
yeah,
beat
and you could destroy it. Like yeah,
it was just like that. It was just like that. I was just going, and like, yeah. So eventually the door gets broken down. They review the footage, like, all right, it's not foul play.
yeah.
And when she came back to work on Monday, she looked at her door, and then she looked at me, and then she was like, "I hope you enjoyed it." And I was like, "Nah, you know, I was like, nah, it was an emergency." And she's like, "I could tell you're lying at me. You're lying to me." And I'm like,
You're like duty calls, manager. Duty call.
yeah. I was like, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, Crystal. It had to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. I'm glad it turned out to be satisfying. Sometimes when people, you know, go through these stories, it's like an embarrassing moment for them. But it seems like you took for what it's worth, right? I mean, someone still died, right? But man, that is a story with a lot of emotional swings.
Just up and down. As the best storytellers is God and just circumstance.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, man, I want to get into the show. I think there's you know, several topics I want to go over. Number one, I want to get to know who you are, have listeners understand, you know, the story behind the Jobfather. Then some trends that you're seeing in the market. Would love to also discuss red flags. What are those? And just the general state of the union when we start thinking about things around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what that means in the workplace and how it shows up. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah, with that, let's get into it. So the Jobfather, like,
yeah,
how did you get that name?
Oh man, so I got that name back in like 2021, and ironically, it was my best friend that it was my best friend that helped me get the job at the gym where I had to break down the door. What happened was in Canada, I'm originally from Toronto, and in Canada, when the pandemic hit, all gyms were like locked down, and as a result, everyone that worked at a gym essentially got laid off. And you know, just because you're laid off doesn't mean like the bill stop or anything like that. So for like years, I had been trying to convince my best friend to like look into getting a job at tech.
Yeah.
Because the skills that you learn, you know, selling gym memberships are very transferable to a lot of different industries. And in some cases, you like going out, having to go and produce leads, hunt for leads, like selling a gym membership is an actually very, very challenging job, right? It's not as easy as a lot of people may think it sounds, but like, you know, because at the end of the day, you're essentially selling something that is not a physical object and requires for the results that people want for them to do all the hard work, right?
You're paying, I have to pay you
to put myself through pain
to do the work.
To do the work. It's you know what I'm saying? So he's like a really skilled sales guy, right? So I'm trying to convince him to get into tech, you know, and he was always hesitant because he had a good thing going with the gym, and then everyone got laid off, and you know, he was panicking. He's a cool character and everything, so he wasn't panicking per se, but I could tell that like he was a little bit anxious because, you know, of course you just got laid off, and it was no fault of your own. You don't know when the gyms are going to come back because it's like we've never experienced something like the pandemic. So I helped him with his resume. I helped him with interview coaching. I put him in touch with a company in my network, and he ended up getting a job where it was a sales job, inside sales. So he didn't have to actually have to go out and get any more leads. An inside sales job where the base salary was his total comp alone, right? That his base plus his commission of his old job was in that base salary plus a commission factor.
Right.
And he was like, I was like, yo, are you going to take it? And he's like, bro, you got me an offer I cannot refuse. You are literally the Jobfather. I was like, yo, Bertrand, I know good marketing. That's good marketing, right? And I think the joke is that like anyone that knows me growing up knows that A, I'm a big Shaq fan, right?
Yeah.
And B, like Shaq, I love to give myself nicknames, right? And none of my nicknames ever really stuck. The worst nickname, I didn't think it's a bad nickname, but like My girl says the worst nickname I've ever given myself was when I was working in radio, and I used to call myself Audio Chocolate. And then she'd be, yo, Aaron, you said, bro.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, man. She'd be like, no, that's a bad one. But like, it never really stuck, right? So he started calling me the Jobfather. I'm like, yo, I think that's the nickname that's gonna stick. And then I started calling myself that on my socials. And he was in 2021, he was the 34th person that I helped. And I was like, you know, again, favorite player is Shaq. Shaq's done by the Lakers was 34. He's the 34th person. I'm like, yo, this might be God trying to be like, yo, like stop with the other nicknames. This is the one.
This is the one.
This is the one. And every time I help somebody get a job, they'd be like, yo, you really are the Jobfather. Like, yo, you really lived up to your name. And it stuck. And like I said, I know good marketing. I even got like, you know, the whole hoodie with the branding on it, man. And yeah, it just worked. I think one of my favorite moments in my life was I was like, someone was kind enough, a writer at Forbes was kind enough to do a feature article on me.
Sure.
And like that blew up my mom blew up the WhatsApp group with that. And I remember like someone was like, we were at some dinner and someone said like, who calls themselves a Jobfather? And she hits them back with, Forbes calls my son the Jobfather.
Okay, flex.
And I was like, Ma, you got to chill. But really,
he was over here doing bodybuilding pose.
Yeah. You know, and it's just something that's really like stuck on. And like, I think one of the things of my favorite things in this path that I'm in this point in my life is that I really feel like I'm working in my purpose. You know, it's not even necessarily specifically helping Black people get jobs, but advocating for people, right? Finding a way to make an impact, finding a way to do work that I'm really proud of. And just right now, the vehicle is, you know, helping Black people get jobs in tech. But like, I'm very passionate about the Black community. I'm very passionate about the global Black community. Like, you know, every time that I travel, I always try to look for other Black people because like, outside of like maybe like, you know, the continent and some of the islands in the Caribbean, we're like minorities in almost every space that we're in. So it's like, it's good to like, you know, find that community, but also kind of take stock in like seeing how we are treated in the global community and how other people like that look like us are surviving and thriving and seeing what we can do, what we can borrow, what we can give in order just to make everything a little bit easier and smoother.
Yeah. So when you mention like tech, like what is the purview of tech, right? Because in my world, it's generally kind of around like research and development, right? Product, you know, product design, engineering. Obviously, there's a lot more than that. So maybe give folks a definition of that.
So when I say tech, there are two ways I look at it, right? Either we get you a job at a company that identifies a tech, offers a digital product or service, you know, operates within SaaS, you know, has a presence online, but like more or less like, you know, even a company that has like a presence on there. Or the other way is to get you a tech job, a technical job at a legacy or a non-technical company, right? But the idea is that, you know, working in this market, there are certain expectations of like pay, benefits, and overall experience and learning path. Like a software engineer can work for a FAANG company, or a software engineer can work for a retail giant like your Target or your Walmart or even McDonald's as a software engineer. Right, they're still in tech, even though that industry or that provider or that service provider doesn't necessarily operate within that traditional tech space. It's still a tech job.
Yeah. One of the things that, you know, I'm really curious about as well is, you know, a lot of what you hear is like, hey, I want to get into tech, right? I want to get a foot in the door, but what comes next? Right. There's not necessarily much thought around like what, or at least discussion. Right. And so how are you advising people to sort of, you know, once they're kind of in that job, how are you sort of like advising them in terms of like a path forward and things to look towards?
Yeah, I always tell people that, so it all comes down to like, depends on like what that job is or like how they got in.
Yeah.
Because normally, like, I work with a lot of people that have had non-linear backgrounds, kind of like myself, right?
Yeah.
You went to school for something else. I went to school for broadcasting. Like,
Right.
I thought when I was in school I was going to be the Black Larry King and everything.
What was it?
Right?
What was it? Smooth chocolate? What was
Audio
it?
chocolate.
Audio
chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audio chocolate.
I thought that's how I got that. That's why I gave myself that nickname, because I'd be like, yo, I like the way my voice be sounding on the radio.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I'm saying? I'm a black guy, so like you gotta have chocolate in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But like, you know, when I graduated school, this is like back in like 2013. This was a little bit before we had this current wave of like podcasting, or like self-publishing media, and this is in that vein where like traditional media hubs were actually like dying. So it was really hard for me to get that first break. I had a couple of contracting opportunities, and I had like a radio gig for like 6 months before the company shut down entirely.
Yeah.
So when I was thinking about what next, ironically enough, I remember thinking I was at a retail job. I hated it. And I was like, I want to work in something that I enjoyed. And I was like, you know, if I could work or do anything in life, what would it be? And it was, I would love to get paid to play video games. You know what I'm saying? And I said to myself, I had a friend that was trying to go pro, and I remember saying to myself, am I willing to put in the work in to get better at Call of Duty than Houston? And the answer was no, because Houston was like a prodigy. And and he's trying to break in. He's not breaking in. I'm like, I'm not trying to do that. But, you know, and I dissected it, and I realized I just want to be in a space where, you know, I won't get in trouble for talking about games, right? And that led me to going on PlayStation's website, and then I looked for jobs that were all based around communication, because I'm like, if there's one thing that I'm good at, it's communicating and talking. It's writing, it's talking, you know, it's communicating thought. And I came across a recruitment post, and it was perfect. And the only thing that I needed was 5 years of recruitment experience. So I was like, reverse engineer, let me see where I can get that and work myself up to a position where if I see a job at PlayStation again, I'm a viable candidate for it. So when I work with people, like for people that are nonlinear backgrounds, it's usually based around, I usually always ask them like, yo, okay, I want you to tell me what you're good at. I want you to tell me what you like, right? Both like to do and just like to consume. Yeah. And I want you to tell me historically, what have you had success with? Sometimes all those things overlap. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're individual. And then based on those three, we kind of break down, we figure out like what makes the most sense, right? If somebody was good at math and statistics and they had good memory, right? I would be recommending them either something around the lines of like data analysis, you know, or business intelligence, or software engineering, right? If someone was really good at organization and communication, right? It's product or project management, depending on like what their interest is in terms of product features and customer experience. And then from there, once we figure out like what the actual technical execution of the skill is, then we start figuring out. And the one thing I love about tech is that there is a tech sector for everything, right? If you're super passionate about anime, then we reverse engineer what it looks like for you to get a job at Crunchyroll. You know what I'm saying? For what it looks like for you to get a job at the time before the acquisition at Funimation, right? So, because like, again, there are streaming houses or there are ways that cater to what your niche is. And depending on like what your job is, that niche or that understanding is going to help elevate you to that, right? Because I knew that like, I was like, once I get these 5 years of recruitment experience, I'm going to be able to recruit any developer I want to work for PlayStation. I'm going to be able to tell them about the narrative and the story. I'm going to tell them about all the innovating stuff. I'm telling them like, yo, if you come here, you have a high chance of working on Game of the Year stuff, right? Because I already knew that intrinsically. So that's where I'd be working with people at. And then I also ask, like, what is a problem that you truly care about? And do you care about working on the solution for it? And that also helps with like direction. That also helps with kind of people visualizing what's next. And I'll also be real too. Sometimes people tell me like, yo, I just want to get paid. I'd be like, yo, that's fine. I got no problem with that. Right. Here are some paths that will help you get paid. Right. And you know what? There might be chance you like what you do on top of that.
There might be. the risk is high, but yeah, you said this word, right? I just love how you just tap into the intrinsic kind of value, right, for those candidates. Where that can totally drive the motivation to even learn more. Because I think a lot of times when people are transitioning into new industries, right, they're like, I'm going to forget the past me. This is a new year, new me. But in actuality, the old you should be leveraging.
Yeah, 100,000%. I always tell people, why do you think that your employer owns the skills that you carry with you in your body, right? They own the time that you work for them, but all the skills you carry with them. When I was working at the gym, whenever we used to sell gym memberships, right, they would give us this little thing that they called a fitness planner. And you open it up, and it had a bunch of questions, but the questions were kind of divided up into 3 categories: NGTs, needs, goal, time frame, right? I still use that format when I'm recruiting for roles, right? If I'm talking to somebody, I'm not trying I have this thing where I'm like, people don't like to be sold, they like to buy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's a difference in that, right? And in order to get somebody to buy, you need to communicate a certain level of value in what is it that you're presenting in the opportunity that makes them go, oh shit, this is what I want.
Right.
So when I'm talking to candidates, I'm still using the skills I learned from the gym.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
They taught me that, but do you think that they own that? And it's like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like the skills that you have, a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people think that they got to start fresh, but the reality is, consciously or unconsciously, you are learning, and you in a lot of ways, you're conditioned to have certain skills that you picked up.
Correct. Yeah.
Out of success or survival that you will be using. And so you, rather than being unconscious about it, be conscious about it, so that when people are, even in the salary negotiation, people are like, oh, you haven't done X, Y, and Z. You tell them how you had success stories with those skills, and suddenly it's a different conversation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's the impact. What is the impact? Right. Man, I love that. And that to me is gold, because I just feel that, especially for a lot of Black folks, I think that can be really intimidating, especially going into an industry where the people interviewing you don't necessarily look like you. But to move on to the next subject, what are some trends that you're starting to see in the market, right? If we think about the past, 2-3 years, right? I'm not going to get into COVID. We all know what COVID is, but, we moved into the remote work. We're now back into sort of this hybrid. Now we got folks returning to office. We've got massive amount of layoffs. We've got that have actually hit a lot of, minorities across the board. And you've got this hostility towards sort of these, DEI programs and ERGs. So what is sort of the status? What are you starting to see? And then on top of that, you got this whole move towards AI.
Yeah. So with regards to the market itself, I don't think it's a secret. The market is it's butt right now. It just sucks. It's brutal. People are still getting jobs, right?
Yeah.
But I was telling my partner this, this time last year, we helped out 20, 25 people. And right now we're trending at 12, maybe 15 for the year. So everything's down across the board.
Yeah.
Opportunities are still there. They're just a bit harder to come by.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to be really smart in terms of how you're applying, right? I was working with somebody the other day, and she was showing me other different jobs that she was going and applying for. And I was like, okay, I'll tell you this as a recruiter, if I'm hiring for one role and I got 100 applicants, the point where I stop looking at applicants isn't when I get to the end of the 100. It's when I get maybe 10 or 15 profiles that I want to speak with, and then everything gets put on pause. So timing or influence becomes a big thing when it comes to your application. If you can't be among the first 50, then your best bet is to try and and you still want to get in that specific company, your best bet then is to try and find somebody that you can kind of get a referral from, right? Whether it be someone that's already in your network, or one thing that we do. One thing I love about being the quote unquote job father is that I have a bit of a platform, right?
Yeah.
And either people already know of me or it's not hard for them to find information about me. So I leverage my platform all the time to connect people either with hiring managers directly or C-level executives to like pitch them to them. And like, if they're like the perfect fit and opportunity, that person will use their influence to be like, hey, we should put this person in the process.
Yeah.
And that's how you can get somebody in. But if you don't have that, again, it relies a lot on timing and just being properly prepared and showing off your opportunity. So like that in itself is a bit difficult because like there's so much competition out there.
Yeah.
So like what we used to be like back in like 2 years ago or even 3 years ago, what would have been like a 2 to 3 month search for a new job has now turned into like anywhere from a 9 to 18 month search, right?
Right.
It's just an employer's market. And then when it comes where DEI is concerned, like, you know, earlier before like we kicked this off, you and I were joking about how quiet February was, you know, and it was a leap year. It was an extra day in February.
An extra day.
And it was crickets, right? Yeah. So you find that a lot of companies, I won't say that a lot of companies are actively hostile towards Black folks. I will say that they have a indifference to us. Like, you know, I was speaking with somebody the other day and they were like, yeah, like 2 years ago, my company would have been like, you can't move forward with this pipeline if it doesn't have a certain amount of diversity in it. And now it's, you know, move forward with the pipeline. If we get a diverse candidate, that's great. You know, we'll strive to keep them great. But if we don't, you know, still fill the role. It's a win, right?
Right.
So like that is a small change, but it's still a significant change in terms of approach. So I do find that a lot of companies, it's not that they're hostile towards DEI. Sure. It's just that they have become a bit more indifferent about it. But that indifference in itself has empowered a smaller minority, a smaller toxic minority to speak out against it, right? Yeah. And like you're seeing this everywhere. There was like the tragedy that happened in Baltimore. I pray for those families, and I want to commend like the workers because like apparently before everything went down, the workers were stopping cars from coming on the bridge. Like those are heroes to me. You know what I'm saying? I hate that incident. Instead of us coming together and mourning heroes from like incident that just happened in terms of like physics, like. The ship lost power and kinetic force of like there's like 2 million pounds of kinetic force crashed into a thing. You got people saying that it happened because the mayor was a DEI hire, and I'm just like that's not even how elections work.
That's wild.
That's, you know what I'm saying?
In a city that is predominantly Black.
You know what I'm saying? Or like the conversation that all the incidents with Boeing have been because they prioritize DEI, despite the fact like 90% of Boeing's leadership is straight white males. Right. So it's like, you know,
Silicon Valley Bank, it was the same thing. Right.
Same thing. Yeah. And I'm just like, you know, when they had that kickback against that Black women-led investor fund that like makes sure that like Black people or Black women specifically get like a chance at investment. Yeah. And I think the stats was like, out of like all the investments and the billions of dollars that happened in Silicon Valley, less than like 1% went to Black women, and like they were up in arms about it, right? But it's a vocal minority that feels empowered by the indifference, right? And it's almost like this whiplash effect, right? That they had to like sit quiet and see all these DEI stuff come in, and you know, and then they now that they have this opportunity to kind of denounce it. Yeah. And, you know, this is like kind of the landscape that we're at. So I always encourage people like, you know, go where you're appreciated, don't go where you're tolerated. Right. And like, especially if you're Black, like, you know, it's only like a small percentage of us that are white passing, you know what I'm saying? Like they gonna know you're Black, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There's no point in hiding it, and there's no point in trying to adapt to anti-Blackness, right? Because that's just a fool's game. So like again, the indifference is still a thing. Yeah. Indifference is still bad. But indifference is better than outright hostility. So I would say like, don't try to hide your intentions. Don't try to hide your values, your own DEI. The people that will speak out against it will speak out against it, but they're doing you a favor because that allows you to steer clear of them.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of people that are still working and still care about it.
Yeah.
The indifference from leadership, it is what it is. But again, you still have people that are working in those orgs that are doing their best to keep that going. And then where AI is concerned, I've been telling everybody, you can't be scared of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be scared of AI. You can't be scared of technology. I know it's advancing at a rapid pace. But I think that our imaginations and the fact that we're in a bit of an AI bubble has kind of spearheaded a lot of this fear, where people think that we're going to be in an iRobot future, and like where it's, you know, it's going to be all, you know, someone told me it's either iRobot or Terminator. And I'm like, both those end in like a robot uprising. So like, you know, it's not really telling me anything good, but the reality is that you will be like, if you're afraid of being replaced at your job, you would be replaced by somebody that is leveraging AI rather than AI in itself.
That's adapted and, you know, ready and has that intrinsic motivation, right?
Exactly.
You know, I think what you said makes complete sense. I feel that in terms of, you know, corporate, you know, what did you call indifference? I mean, that's definitely where we were pre-2020, right? So kind of back to status quo to a degree. I think there's definitely some companies that have still committed to it, and that's great. But, you know, I think the part that, you know, for me that is always kind of top of mind is that there's just so much noise, right? Yes, there's very few, but in terms of the headlines, it's basically being distributed to the masses, right? Like whether it be those comments around Silicon Valley Bank, whether it be around sort of Baltimore, you know, even with AI, right? With their Gemini project, that totally rubbed me the wrong way, because up to that point, Black representation through AI was terrible. And there wasn't any upheaval in that, right? And so, you know, these are in a sense headline things where people perceive these as tech, and, you know, we talk about, you know, opportunities from you know, a money perspective, and being able to contribute, but, you know, does that account for the whole industry? And I feel like that lens probably prevents a lot of people start to kind of take a step back of like, hey, do I really want to do this? Right.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's like vocal minorities are powerful things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the entire population of Twitter, for example, is like, you know, like 60 million or something, but all it takes is a tweet getting 15,000 likes before like systemic change somewhere or some ripple effect happens. So it's like, it is a difficult place, but like I've been encouraging people to also like look at things from the lens of like being a bit more opportunistic, right? Right now, like you said, we kind of did a whiplash back to the status quo, right? But like, to me, I don't even think that we could ever go back to the status quo, because like, A, we already had progress made and people got a taste of it. And B, we started having those nuanced conversations, and some genies you can't put back into the bottle. Right. So to me, I think that we are trending towards uncharted territory. And this is where you want to like start putting your roots in. Like the difficult stage is where you want to start putting your roots in and start building, you know, infrastructure in here, whether it's internal infrastructure within yourself or within a company or your own initiatives. Right. Because when the pendulum swings the other way, you want to be ready. And this applies to the DEI conversations, but this also applies to AI adoption. Right. I was talking to a researcher the other day, and she was like, I'm worried that AI is going to take my job. And I'm like, nah, like, you know, you as a researcher, let's say every quarter you average 10 reports, right? But if you as a researcher leveraging a tool like Perplexity, you know, you're able to produce 100 reports in that same time frame, right? Perplexity is not what's going to replace you. The version of you that's leveraging and being able to output that is what's going to do that replacement, right? And that is the new status quo. So it's like people need to start, you know, in this era of uncertainty, in this era of, everything just not being like the way that it used to be. Like I miss 2005 too. Like I miss 2005. I miss the 3X white tees and the $80 Air Forces.
All the dances coming out of Atlanta.
You know what I'm saying? Houston too, like the South. Those days are gone, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you could reminisce and get passed over, or you can adapt and take over. And those are your only two choices.
Right. So I want to get in one last thing. I'm actually going to flip it, because originally I was going to say red flags, but actually, what are green flags? Because I feel like there's a lot of conversation about it, and a lot of coping in that discussion. But you're out on the job search, whether you're pivoting or whether you're looking to level up. We've seen sort of all this change, right? Like keeping everything we've talked about in mind. What are the green flags, right? You're saying the way that these workplaces it's moved beyond the status quo. And so I also feel there's a higher level of consciousness, because, people have said the things that they've said. A lot of folks have thrown out their cards around the environment. So what would you say are green flags?
Are we talking about in staying at an opportunity or accepting a new opportunity?
Let's go through, let's say in a new opportunity. I do like to stay, but I would imagine they're probably consistent.
And I think what I'm going to say applies to like both. So I always tell people all the time, like, be like, you shouldn't be interviewing, you shouldn't be job hopping. And I always say, like, taking an interview is not the same as job hopping, because it's only job hopping when you sign your name on a contract, get the clearance from the security checks, and then give your resignation at your old job. What I always encourage people to do is to always be interviewing, because A, you know what your real-time market value is, but B, if you decide to stay at your company or where you are, that is an informed decision. There is less anxiety that comes with it. Right off the bat, you know what you can get at a new job. Right. You know what I'm saying? You know what you can get on that market. You know what that market looks like. And like as a result of also interviewing, if you play your cards right, you're also adding to your network with each interview, even if you turn down the offer. You know what I'm saying? So I like either way, green sides, red flags, you should always be interviewing so that you know what your real-time value is, and whatever decision that you make is an informed decision. When it comes to green flags and new opportunities, for me, I always say write down the stuff that makes you anxious at the top of your list and ask about them, right? And it's not even like the answers and what is said does matter, but what matters more is how it's said. You know what I'm saying? So when the pandemic first kicked off, I was telling everybody, all my friends, I'm like, yo, if you are interviewing for a new job, I need you to ask them, how do I know your company is still going to be around in 6 months? Right? Because no, but if you think about it though, you remember pandemic kicked off, St. Patrick's Day was my homie's birthday. It was his 30th birthday. The same one that gave me the Jobfather name, by the way. Homie's birthday, whole world shut down on his 30th, right? And like, if you remember from March 20th, 2020 till about maybe May 1st, right? Maybe even May 15th, we had a bunch of startups and like just ill-prepped companies fall off of the map. And we had like a mini like layoff wave at first, and then the zero interest rate stuff started coming up, and then we had to pivot to remote, and then we had like the surges everywhere, GameStop memes. It was a crazy time, right? All of that, right? But before that, like companies were dropping off like flies, or layoffs were happening. So I was like, you need to ask the questions that are making you nervous, right? Because if they're interviewing you, they're interested in you, and like you shouldn't set yourself up for failure. You shouldn't hit yourself with like, if something happens, you shouldn't be like, I should have asked that question. Right. If I asked the question and heard what they said, I would have been able to make that deal. So I'd be saying like, ask the most awkward things, ask the things that make you feel anxious. Ask them how much cash reserves that you got. Ask them what is their history when it comes to layoffs. Ask them, what happens with disruptions or new technologies. When the racial reckoning happened, right? I was telling people, Black people specifically, ask them when something happens that disrupts or disturbs the Black community, how do they make sure that they support their Black employees, right? And even if they don't have anything improper in place, hear what they say and see if it sounds like they're taking steps to either assess or they're taking steps to implement those resources so that they're never caught unawares again, right? Even though, like, historically, this you should never have been caught unawares in the first place. But I'm not gonna hold you. Right? Out of sight, out of mind. I'll just say that. You know.
Yeah.
So green flags is like you're able to ask awkward questions or questions that where your anxiety lays, and you get an answer that settles that anxiety, that makes sense, that not just sounds good, but it makes sense, and that it sounds real, right? If you ask about diversity and they say something like, yeah, you know, we pretty diverse and, you know, we're happy with our diversity. I remember I went for an interview and I remember a company saying like, yeah, we're satisfied with our diversity. Yeah. And then I went on their employee page and they had no Black people. They had a guy with dreads, a white guy with dreads.
Wow.
And I was like, this is diversity.
Yeah.
That is not diversity, right? Having Black hairstyles on non-Black people is not diversity.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I'm saying? It just sounded frilly versus an opportunity I actually took when I asked them, like, you know, how do you ensure diversity or how do you support your Black employees? And the first thing that the person did was take accountability. And they were like, you know, the George Floyd situation was a wake-up call for the company. Like you always had people talking about the needs that we needed to do. But when that wake-up call happened, we gave a platform and we sat down, we listened to what these people were, what our internal advocates were saying. We made them stakeholders and we helped them launch different initiatives. And, you know, we did this and we're in the process of doing this and we hope to do this in the future. I'm like, that is a very thought out answer. And like, you always have to have the asterisk in mind, like, yo, things could change, obviously, but like, as of right now, that is a thoughtful answer that is both empathetic and informative.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I'm getting it's like, don't wait to find out.
Yeah. Exactly. Don't leave your future or your destiny in the hands of an employer that only sees you as far as what accounting tells them to see.
Well, with that, thank you.
My pleasure.
Jermaine, how can folks learn more about you and find you on the internet?
If you Google Jobfather, I'll come up, which I'm super, super hyped about. My mom be just Googling me randomly, you know, just Jobfather, Jermaine Murray. If you can follow me on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on Instagram. On Twitter, it's the Jobfather with 2 underscores afterwards. On LinkedIn, it's Jermaine Murray. I'm the one with the Jamaican flag. You know, I always gotta rep my people. And you can find me on Instagram at Jermaine The Jobfather or on TikTok at The Jobfather. Or, you know, if you ever have any questions about careers or what tech jobs may be good for you, hit up my website, jupiterhr.ca, and just send a request.
Awesome. We'll include all of this in the show notes. Don't go looking for audio chocolate though.
Please don't. I know my partner's in the other room and she definitely heard me say audio chocolate. Every time I say it, she like dies a little on the inside. She's been begging me to stop telling the story, but I'd be like, it's a good story. Like, it's a ridiculous name. Like, thank God that didn't stick, right?
Yeah. Well, look, it's gonna stick in our listeners' brain. So we just went from one to many. And so
I will say this. If you reach out to me, either call me Jermaine or the Jobfather. Don't call me Audio Chocolate. Don't call me Job Poppy. Don't call me Job Daddy. It's
Did you say Job Coffee?
Job Poppy.
Job Hoppy. Oh,
Poppy, like Poppy Chulo. Yeah, like
that was a name.
Yeah. Yo, I have gotten some wild DMs in my life, right? Job. For some reason, whenever someone calls me Job Daddy, I get this nasty like.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm being harassed.
Yeah,
right. So
that's
nasty, right?
That's crossing the boundaries.
Job Daddy is nastier than Audio Chocolate.
All right, we're gonna end it here. Thank you so much, Jermaine.
My pleasure, Harris.